I think it's important to keep in mind that I is equal to, I to the first is just I, and I squared is equal to negative 1, and I to the third is equal to negative I, and I to the fourth is equal to a positive 1. So when you look at some of these, you simplify. For example, this right here, before I even do that squared, if I know that I cubed is equal to a negative I can change the sign of this, and that becomes a 7I simply by applying that I to the third power and simplifying it. So you put a 2 there, and you've got a negative I out in front. Deal with the negative I later, because you have to square this anyway. So that's a 49, but that's a negative 1, because I squared is a negative 1. So then you have a negative I times 49, well, negative 49, because it's a negative 1 times 49. Multiply that, you get a positive 49I, and you're in business. Similar situation, you have a 7 raised to the third power, you got 343 here, but you're going to have a negative 343, but I to the third power. And remember, I to the third is a negative I. So you've got this negative I squared, so you have a negative 1 out front. That's going to become a positive 1 and basically goes away. You have an I cubed, which is a negative I. So you have a negative 343 times a negative I. The negatives cancel. Your answer is 343I. It's positive I, but it's still an I. So you got to kind of work your way through those things. When you go through something like this, you want to FOIL it. Okay? You've got to FOIL it, but what are you foiling? Well, you're foiling the conjugate of the denominator. The only way of getting rid of I in the denominator is to multiply by 2 plus 6I in this case, because it's the same numbers with a different sign in between. So 2 plus 6I is what you're distributing. So you FOIL this thing here and get your 4. Your outer and your inner term are going to cancel each other out. Unless you've memorized that or remember that, go through the process and it'll just happen naturally. The last one is a negative 36I squared. That's your denominator. Okay, your numerator then is a 6, a plus 2I, a plus 18I, and then the last is a plus 6I squared. Okay, and then this becomes a positive 36 because an I squared is negative and it changes that. So this becomes a 40. Those guys cancel. So you end up with just a 40 in your denominator. This becomes a negative 6 because 6I squared is a negative 6. Well, that's going to cancel with that 6. So you have a 2I and an 18I. That gives you a 20I. You can reduce that. Cancel the zeros. First of all, it becomes a 1 over 2I or an I over 2. And all three of these are done the same way.